How are you living, Colin?
How am I living?
Yes.
That's a good question. It's always the question on an actor's salary. How are you living? How are you even doing it?
I mean, it was more in the Biggie Small sense, but I feel you.
Yeah, man, I'm good. I'm mostly good. It's been a rough 2 weeks because we lost a doggo, which was hard, and we loved him very much. But sorry to start out on a downer, but I'm honest. That's kind of where I'm at right now. But other than that huge bit of tragedy, which really sucked, and it's that's life. It's been a good year so far.
It's always difficult to deal with the loss of a pet. It's like, dude, it is a loss of a family member.
It 100% is. In fact, to the degree, and I don't believe I'm actually going to say this on a podcast, I loved my father very much, and he passed in 2007, and I cried. There's no question. Like there were a couple of, I can probably count on my hand the number of times I cried. Not a good proper cry. He was my dad. Of course you're going to cry. I have wept more from the loss of a dog than I did my own father. What's that about?
I have no idea, but I guess it's kind of like the loss of a child in some ways, because like you do bring up a pet from when they're young and you see their whole life before you.
Well, yeah, but no, I mean, he was 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's why that's the tragedy of it. Exactly. And the problem with this dog is he had health issues from the get-go, from the very start. And so we were always like worried about him and like always taking him to the vet, and like lots of, middle of the night frantic runs to the vet, and like always keeping him alive. And we thought we did. And then the one time it was out of our control. The one time that, he was in hospital waiting to go into surgery for a hernia that had ruptured. And then he had this breakthrough seizure, and we thought like his seizures were well controlled and he was on medication, but for some reason he had a breakthrough and they couldn't control it. And that's what makes it worse, is you're like, if I was there, if he was with us, he would have been okay. We had the anti-seizure stuff waxed, but no. Yeah, I mean, those are just stories you tell yourself.
I mean, that's the thing with any death, I think.
Yeah, you always tell yourself stories. You make up these.
If I'd said something, if I like, literally, if they hadn't taken that turn or whatever, or like.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, if I'd said something, I mean, that's a biggie, and I'm sure a lot of people in the comedy industry are kind of reeling from. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, did you know Eb at all?
No, I didn't know him at all.
Because you were in comedy like before that like scene.
Yeah, but I've seen the outpouring of love and regret and all of that. So he was clearly a very talented individual that touched a lot of people.
Yeah, Eb had time for everyone. Like genuinely, one of those people who like. You could grab, a coffee, a drink, whatever with him. Like, if you were in town, he was like, yo, let's meet up. Let's go hang. Let's talk. And so
you were close?
Not super close, but
you knew him. As you do in the comedy industry, you all kind of hang and know each other. And we spend time together.
He did this podcast. We, chatted. Like, I know his story quite well. And like, he was a dog dude, he had like a lot of dog jokes. And of course, someone who, wasn't surprising basically. Like everyone knew. Like,
I was having this conversation with Rob the other day. Van Vuren, he took me to the Penguin Cave of Desire, which I felt I was very honored to be taken to the Penguin Cave of Desire and go and swim in the cooling and refreshing waters of the Atlantic Ocean, and be purified by them. We had a long chat. It was nice. We haven't caught up in a while. It was really cool to catch up and.
Because you guys like started comedy together like around the same time.
Yeah. And he was talking about him and how much of a blow it was. But also that when he got the call, there was no surprise. It was like,
Yeah. That was literally when I saw the news, I was like, I think I know what happened here. Yeah. And he was someone who spoke openly about his struggles.
Yeah.
Like Eb told you straight, like, I'm not okay. Like, it's a thing Dylan Oliphant even brought up in like one of his videos, like always, you know, and had attempted it before. And that's the problem with depression, you know, it's like one of these things that's pervasive, and I don't know how to solve that problem, because like I think you've also probably seen it a lot in the entertainment industry. It's a thing that affects many people.
Yeah, look, I've had my times in
the doldrums,
in the dark.
Yeah,
and I know firsthand there is nothing you can do, really, as a friend, as a family member,
literally right next to them the whole time.
There is really nothing you can do.
Yeah.
You know, your perception of the world changes to such a degree that even positive experiences become clouded and something else.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Trust me, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been there too. So.
Well, there you go. That the cloud, the dark cloud that that descends, and then
the rational thought is...
The rational thought goes out the window.
Yeah, but the only rational thought becomes like, everything gets better once I'm gone.
Yeah.
And you justify how everyone else's life will be better and this and that. And like often you feel like you're doing everyone a favor.
Right.
Like,
exactly. But you know what? And I hate to find silver linings from tragedy. Because I fucking hate that
sometimes
when you're experiencing a tragedy and people go, oh, well, look on the bright side, at least fuck off. But it was my tragic experience, so I can do it. The one thing with our little doggo going is seeing the grief that my wife experienced, and I couldn't put her through that. You know, I can only imagine if it wasn't a doggo and it was me, I couldn't do that. I could not. I can't even fathom the levels of grief. You know, so yeah, it's been an eye opener in a way. Like to see it and you go, oh shoot. Not that I'm actively,
not that you're always thinking about it.
Not that I'm thinking of offing myself.
But clearly it is something that's been in the back of the mind at times.
I have dealt with depression before.
Yeah.
Like you say, as a lot of people in the entertainment industry have. You know, it's a very real thing. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't know like how we well, actually, I mean, I guess I do. The things that helped me were and are daily practices.
Yeah.
You know, so I suppose it's a matter of for those loved ones in your life of trying to instill or get them to take on daily practices, you know.
Yeah, like in terms of like mental health and obviously physical as well, which feeds into it, and that's in routine.
Yeah, all of
like
that stuff. Like the big exactly. All of that stuff.
Yeah.
The exercise, the daily gratitudes.
You do those
every day, man. Every day.
I waver with it because it's also like I just feel so cheesy sometimes.
I know, but no one needs to know. It's in your head, bro.
I know that is the problem with writing sometimes. It's like I always think there's always going to be an audience for this eventually. Like, but I've already told my girlfriend, like, burn all my notebooks. Just when I die.
Do you write down your gratitude?
Yeah.
Well, stop doing that.
Okay. I write. Well, that's the thing. It's part of the journaling process.
Yeah. But stop. But if they're making you self-conscious, if it's making you self-conscious by writing it down, because at the back of your mind you're going, someone's going to read this someday. Stop writing it down. You don't need to write it down, right? It's the act of trying to find stuff that you're grateful for that changes the brain chemistry.
I get you there.
You don't even have to find stuff to be grateful for. Do you know this? So they put people in an MRI machine and they scanned their brains as they were practicing gratitudes, right? Trying to find stuff to be grateful for. The chemistry, the brain wave patterns change the moment you start trying to find something, whether you find it or not.
That's crazy.
So those brain hormones that get released by practicing gratitude, you don't even actually have to find it. It's the act of trying to find something, you know, which is why I always start with something simple. I always do it with my morning coffee, right? So I'm like grateful for this coffee. And actually with climate change, you know, we might not have coffee forever.
Yeah.
We think it's a given, but it ain't. But like we might not have coffee in 20 years, you know?
No, I'm fully with you there.
Yeah. So I start with your coffee. And then, and start with the roof over your head and the fact that you have food in the cupboard and whatever.
I think the thing is, I also want to like try to change it up, because I'm always like, oh, you thought about that yesterday.
Yeah, but that's also fine. But it's the trying to find something. And I always try to get to a point where I run out of things, and then you try for one more. And it's the trying for the one more. It's that stretch that really gets the brainwaves going and gets those hormones going.
See, like
that's a big one, man.
I've done it with journaling, basically. Like I do the gratitude stuff and then I journal afterwards. And I think for me, the writing it down is figuring stuff out. But maybe if I just split those two things up.
Yeah.
Because like I love the act of just writing out your thoughts, because it helps you figure out your thoughts clearer, essentially. Like, it's like, what do I actually want to say here?
Right.
Instead of, so you focus in on the actual points you're trying to make to yourself.
I get that. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Do you write long form? If you're writing like a script or when you write your comedy sets, do you write long form? Like
sometimes, like I start, like, so actually we chatted about this recently. The way I do it is, controversy. But Neil Gaiman used to say you write your first draft by hand, and then the second draft, you edit. Yeah. And so I do a lot of that. Like I'll do the first, like I do short stories, like scripts, not so much. Obviously, you just
short stories.
Don't do that on computer and that, but like short stories, journaling.
Yeah, because final draft.
Literally, it's like, but. Outlines for things, various stuff like that. Yeah, like it'll all be by hand first, and then you put that in the computer. And like in between that process, there's like, that's the thing. It's just the first process is figuring out exactly what you want to say, and then you expand upon it, basically.
Right.
Like for yourself, you also write, right?
Yeah, I write, and I also have tended to write scripts like straight into final draft.
Yeah.
But since I read that, like it actually. Creatively, it is more effective to write long form. I've been trying that, but then I hate the transferring from long form onto into a draft script.
Oh no, there's definitely like short stories that I've never even attempted to like put into the computer yet, because it's just like. This is going to take a few hours, and I don't know how much I believe in this idea anymore. So,
yeah,
I guess there is that. Yeah, thank you for coming, by the way. This is really cool. Like we met once like 10 years ago at the Bat Center in Durban when you still did comedy.
Yeah.
And you were actually quite a dirty bastard, like on stage. I was
a dirty bastard, yes. I still am, just secretly. I don't go out publicly being a dirty bastard anymore. But yeah. Yeah, I used to love doing comedy, actually. I enjoyed the challenge of it.
Yeah.
I think that's what attracted to me in the first place. Was it's not like other areas where, like as an actor, you can do a middling performance and you get away with it. You
for the most part.
But you still book another role. You can do a bad film. You still can do a good audition.
Fair enough. I get you there.
Do you know what I mean? But what I love about comedy is that immediately if you failed.
Yeah.
Because
you have to sit in the failure.
And you have to sit in exactly. Yeah. Either the audience laughs or they don't. And there is no gray area in that. And I kind of love that about it. It's very cool. In New York, while I was living in New York, I still would go and do the odd open mic just for shits and giggles, just to stay fresh, or like not even to stay fresh, just
Because why did you go out of it?
It was New York that did it to me.
Okay,
that
you didn't want to be doing the 9 gigs a night,
exactly,
like everywhere. Yeah.
Exactly. I got to a point where I was like, hang on, what am I most passionate about?
And it was acting,
and it's acting. Always has been, and I felt like New York is the kind of place where you need to give 100% of yourself to one thing. You can't spread yourself too thin. You don't have the energy. The city is too tiring. Your days are too tiring. You have to just focus on one thing. And also, since I was there, our first time, when we were doing our reconnaissance, that was like, over a decade ago. I remember going to Stand Up New York, watching a show, going to the owner of the club saying, hey, I'm a comic from South Africa. I'd love to do an open spot. He was like, yeah, cool. Come back next week. And went back the next week, Thursday, got a 5-minute open spot, blew the roof off, had a jaw.
Because you'd been doing it.
Because I'd been doing it. I was very, very sharp at the time. And it was great fun. And that was the way things were. You could just go up to the owner of a club.
Whereas now you got to sign a list and you're like number 30.
Exactly. Now you've got to pay to do
bringer shows and stuff.
Yeah. Or a lot of them are doing you pay $5
to perform,
to do an open spot. And then the open spot is you and a room full of comics who are all sitting there with their notebooks going, oh, that's a good joke, and maybe there's one or two punters, but it's 5:30 p.m. and, maybe they've barked a couple of people in, but there's maybe two very confused tourists going, oh, what is this? I don't know. Is this comedy? I thought it was a band.
To dream,
no, man, no, it's not.
It's more of a grind.
I couldn't grind it. I couldn't grind it, and I didn't have the energy to do it. So I did a few, but while I was there, I was spending all my days auditioning. I was doing 5-6 auditions in a day.
What was it like, by the way? Because you came from South Africa where you were pretty well established, you Fear Factor, Idols, all the different things,
Isidingo.
That's how my mom...
Forget Isidingo.
No, when I told my mom, I was interviewing you, she was like, oh, from Isidingo. Literally. So
it's so funny. There's different stratas of... That's where I started, yeah. There's different stratas of South African society, and they all recognize me from different things, and very rarely from all things or from multiple things. It's people know me from a thing. It's funny. But it was interesting because I had to start from scratch with no representation, and when I moved there, I had a manager that I'd been sending self-tapes to for a little while before going out, but I'd never had any even nibbles from those self-tapes. And when I got there, again, I honed down and focused in, made the decision to really focus on acting. So I even expunged all of the presenting stuff off my CV. So when I arrived there, my CV didn't mention any of the presenting, any of the hosting stuff.
Is there
only the acting?
Is there a sort of thing over there that continuity presenting is not looked at highly?
Yes, very much.
Because here, continuity presenters are the most well-known people in the country.
I know, yeah, and there isn't that kind of tradition that you can be all things.
Yeah,
we can be generalists. You can be a comic and a presenter and an actor, and that's fine, But in America, if you're a presenter, or they call it a host, you can't be an actor, and they're not going to take you seriously as an actor. Right? That's it. He's a host. He doesn't act. Ryan Seacrest doesn't act.
Fair enough, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
He acts as Ryan Seacrest.
Right.
That's
yeah. And so I made a very conscious decision when moving out there. No, that's it. All of the hosting stuff wasn't mentioned on my CV. But still, I had what I thought at the time to be a fairly impressive CV. I'd done a lot of international shows that have shot here,
I was going to say, there must have been a benefit being in Cape Town because it gets your foot in the door. Black Mirror you got from being in Cape Town. Right?
Yeah, exactly. That was Black Mirror is a perfect example, And so there's a big name production that I've got a speaking role in. It's Netflix. I thought that should count for something.
Yeah. I thought that was what would have put you in the conversations.
So when I arrived in New York, I emailed 20 agencies to try get representation. I didn't get a reply. I did not get a reply. And then I got lucky. I got really, really, really lucky. I had an in-the-room audition through that manager for Jessica Jones, Marvel, Netflix. And I got a call back, and then I did the call back, and I booked it. And what was so funny is a week after booking that, I got 5 meetings with agents.
Was it just because your name was now in the system, essentially?
Yeah. So New York is very much a what have you done recently? What have you done recently, and what have you done here? And it's like that you want to get a bar job in New York, they require 3 years New York experience. If you've worked in LA, they don't give a shit. They're like, no, but have you worked New York? right?
Crazy.
And I've spoken to LA actors. They say exactly the same thing, that like you need to have done New York jobs in order to be booked in New York, which of course is a catch-22, because how do you get the job?
I mean, this is the 3 years experience CV shit like that everyone in South Africa knows very well.
Yeah. Yeah. And the answer to that is that the director of one of the 2 episodes that I was in on Jessica Jones was an Aussie.
Okay.
And he insisted on booking the Safa because of some kind of Southern Hemisphere camaraderie. Right.
Which is usually like, not the thing that's going on between Australians and South Africans. But
when you're in the States, there is. It's like, oh, we're Southern Hemisphere people.
Crazy.
Right. And so he insisted.
The enemy of my enemy.
Yeah. The other director wanted to book an American dude. He was like, no, mate, you need to book this guy. Yeah, he's got the goods.
It's crazy how those like small moments and small things like really change, like can change your life. And you're always waiting, like as someone who's going there trying to do this thing, you're like, okay, I've got a solid body of work behind me, but no one fucking knows me here. Yeah. I'm gonna have to grind away at this, and then you don't know if that's ever actually going to happen.
You don't. If I hadn't booked that job, I wouldn't have got representation. I wouldn't have got an agent. I wouldn't have got a new manager. I wouldn't have booked other work. I probably would have come home after a year. And instead, you know, we lived there solidly for 6 years, or like not solidly, but most of the year. 5 years.
Yeah, how do you balance
for 5 years
that out? Because you still have a home here.
So it kind of changed over time. COVID changed everything.
Okay.
Because first of all, we were gunning for our citizenship, for our passports. And then I actually had my eligibility when COVID hit, and then I got locked down here and then lost my eligibility, which sucked. But then the other thing that happened because of COVID, and it remains true to this day, is they stopped seeing people in person, in studio. Yeah. Everything became virtual, like so many other industries, right? And so now you can put yourself on tape and send your tape. Well, in fact, not you can.
That's the way
you are required to. Even in the States, I was back there recently. I wanted to go in for an audition. They're like, no, you put yourself on tape now. That's how we do things now. They like it that way now.
But that's also like a little bit, it doesn't make it harder sometimes because tape versus being in the room.
But in some ways it does.
Yeah.
Yes. So the advantage is, you know, if you're not good at in-person auditions, it's great because you can do multiple takes. You can fuck up. You can cut. You can take as much time as you want. There's no nerves from other people being in the room. That's cool.
But then also there's no nerves. There's none of that, so you're not feeling it.
Well, there's that. I mean, sometimes that's useful. Sometimes it's not.
Okay.
But I'll tell you the one thing that is a downside of that is it's very difficult now to build relationships with casting directors.
Yeah.
You know, in my time there, I was on a first name basis with several casting directors. I would walk in the room, you know, and I'll go, hey, Bonnie, how you doing? You know, hey, Mark, how you doing? You know, hey, Colin. And that's from going in regularly and doing good work and you actually have a face to a name. And that's still working in my favor, that now when I send a tape to certain casting directors in New York,
at least they know who you are.
They know who I am. They've met me. We've like been in the room together. And I think it must be very difficult for young actors now to build those relationships, because all you can build that relationship with is your tape. And I mean, you know, that's difficult to do.
No, definitely. And like, I think the problem there also just lies in the way things have gone since COVID, because it's not just it's not just as home. It's like everything has become a lot more fake, I guess. You know, it's done with CGI. A lot of stuff isn't done like on
AI. Yeah.
A lot of exactly.
Yeah.
So how has that changed for you as someone who's literally, you know, been on sets, like on the rugby field, you know, like with some questionable...
We don't mention that film.
Sorry, some questionable CGI of the crowd. But you know what I mean? Like going from that, has it changed? Is it different now? Like, or are you still doing mostly? Because I know with Unseen, a lot of it seems to be like on set and it's, you know, like, but is that a local versus international thing?
No, actually, no. So the one thing where technology has changed things, even here, is shooting on LED backgrounds.
Oh yes,
you know.
So we're doing a lot of that here as well.
Yeah. So not to the degree we don't have don't have one with that incorporates Unreal Engine like they do on the Marvel stuff that moves with the camera, which is incredible tech. I mean, that's like phenomenal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just finished on a Lifetime film, for Lifetime Network.
Yeah.
In the States.
Is it a Christmas movie?
No, it's not actually. It's an interesting film actually. It's about the wildfires in Northern California that happened in, I've forgotten now, 2008, I think.
Okay.
It was called the Camp Fire, and it completely destroyed the city of Paradise, the town of Paradise. It just flattened it. The entire, I don't know if you remember, like a few years back, there were those videos on social media of people trying to get out of the wildfire, and they were in their cars, and their cars were catching alight.
I haven't seen that, thankfully.
It's brutal. It's brutal stuff. Anyway, so it was about that. So it was a tragic story, but I mean, it's Lifetime, so there was a happy. There's always
romance happening.
There's always a happy ending in a Lifetime film. But on that, we did a lot of the driving shots on an LED background, and it was incredible, actually. And you look at the footage, it's. Yeah. I mean, of course it does, because you're not driving.
Okay. Sure.
So there's that. You're having to pretend to drive and not have it look like a 1950s.
Literally, that's what was going in my mind. I was like,
where the steering wheel goes from side to side and they never look at the road. So it's a whole new technique that you've got to get on board with. And no one teaches you that. You've got to like.
I was about to ask.
You've got to figure that out, and make sure that. I mean, the director will come and tell you that you're turning the steering wheel too much, but that's a matter of you being aware. Also, I was aware that we were going into the studio, and we did have a lot of actual stuff on location. Driving the same truck. So I was aware when we were doing the actual night shoots and I was driving on those roads of making a mental note of my movements. How often do I look at the rearview mirror? How long do I look to my passenger before I have to look back at the road? How much do my hands move from side to side? So those
So it's very conscious then.
Yeah, those kind of data points I was conscious of, and that really helped then going into studio.
I guess what was that on again that you mentioned?
Lifetime.
Oh, the film hasn't come out yet.
No, it hasn't come out yet. It was an amazing experience, though. I mean, it was really incredible. I don't know when the release date is of it, and of course, I'm not. Really, I probably said too much already.
No, thankfully, it's a pretty small audience.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not gonna mention who the American star was, but I got to work with a Golden Globe winning actress, 1-on-1. Like I was number 2 on the call sheet, so it was
I mean, are you like a hero in this thing? Like because you kind of like I could see how you would be cast in a Lifetime movie, put it that way.
I play the husband of the lead, and I've got my 2 kids, and it's
you got to get out of this fire.
Yeah, exactly. It's the story of that a lot of people in Paradise went through of having to deal with the fire and make sure that their loved ones were safe. And unfortunately, tragically, a lot weren't. I think 83 people died in those wildfires. Yeah.
It's been such a pleasant chat. So, speaking of like, highly rated or at least popular people that you've worked with, I saw you worked with Rob Lowe. Or like, how was that? Because like, he seems like such a character.
He's such a cool dude. I mean, the truth is, I didn't actually get to work with him
directly. Okay,
all of my scenes were with Kristen.
Okay,
but I did get to meet him, hang out in the makeup truck with him. His son was playing my son. His actual son was playing my son.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the film, so.
That is a Christmas movie.
I saw that. So it was just like, damn.
And probably the highest rated film I ever did, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, from the film, because I know like some of the series you've been in have like done quite well.
Yeah. So let me put that another way. The biggest jump in my IMDb star meter was when I did that film.
But then I know you're on a film that Morgan Freeman's in as well, but I don't know how much you guys interacted there. It didn't look like
different continents. I didn't like. Not only did I not shoot with them, we were in different continents.
I literally thought
Morgan Freeman will not travel outside of his state to film. If you want to shoot a film with Morgan, you have to go to where he lives and shoot there, which is like Virginia, I think. Like, that's the only option. He will not travel. He won't even travel to LA, bro. He's like, no, you can come to me.
That is a level of star power.
That we all want.
Somewhat. I mean,
you come to me.
I still want to, venture out into the world, but I get when you're at his age, that's also the thing.
Stature. Why not, man?
Yeah. And it's also, I mean, you get to pick and choose your projects, I guess, like if you're him. But for yourself, like are you picking and choosing stuff, or is it still very much just like, hey man, I just want to work?
Yeah, I just want to work. I mean, I would love to pick and choose. I pick and choose commercials for the most part, but just because I've had to, because the rates have got so bad over the last few years that I've turned down more commercials over the last season than I think I ever have in my life. But as far as, film and TV stuff, you don't really get to choose, and, we've seen such a huge contraction of the industry over the last couple of years that I just feel fortunate to be working, to be honest, because a lot of my friends who quite frankly are better actors than me are not working. And it's a brutal time to be an actor. The streamers have changed the entire landscape.
Or anything.
There's no residuals anymore unless you do a network show, and really the only network shows that are still happening are the procedurals.
Law and Order, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I've done one or two, and I get some residuals, but even those they decrease over time.
Sure.
So now I get checks for like 30 cents.
I've heard of this. Like, so does it actually happen?
Yeah. No, I got one check for 5 cents. I got a paper check for 5 cents. So the paper that it's printed on
is literally worth,
and the postage is worth probably 10x the check itself. But they still cut a check for me for 5 cents.
That is hilarious.
It's bizarre. You gotta love it.
Oh, that is crazy.
Yeah.
Unseen. South African production.
Unseen, season 2, releasing on the 2nd of May, going out to 190 countries, which is, I think, every country that Netflix goes to.
Pretty much. It's almost every country in the world.
Yeah, there's only 195 countries in the world. So I'd love to know which 5 countries Netflix is not in. I don't know the answer to that.
It's probably like Antarctica. Or
No, I reckon Antarctica is probably there. But yeah, it's going out to 190 countries on the 2nd of May. I'm super, super excited about it. That was one of those jobs that I just didn't see coming. It was literally, I was just happy to be working. I auditioned for this role. It seemed like a fun role, and I had a lot of fun
here or there.
No. It's.
I know it's a South African production. That's why I was like, were you back in South Africa at the time?
Yeah, I was back here. I was here in Cape Town. I auditioned for it, and the production company is just absolutely fantastic production company. They really know what they do. Gambit Films. They did Blood and Water as well. They do Blood and Water as well. Really fantastic bunch of people. And it was just such a joy.
And it's quite a fun character to play because you play a lawyer who's like quite smarmy and quite like, I'm only on episode 3, so I don't know how things evolve from here. Yeah. But I imagine you get up to some shit.
Yeah, he's ambitious. I say that he's ambitious at the expense of everything else. His ambition comes before.
Yeah, there's no morals there.
No morality. Yeah.
So how do you approach something like that? Do you tap into some dark forces or?
Scarily easily, Bob. Scarily easily. I really had fun playing that role. And I had even more fun in the second season, because the second season, my character goes places.
Okay. Becomes more part of the
story. A bit more involved. In the first season, he's the lawyer to this organized crime ring, and in the second season, he takes a slightly more central role, and it was great fun. I really got to sink my teeth into it in the second season.
And is there a difference between working with South African crews and casts versus American? Like, does it feel like coming home, or is it?
It's interesting you use that phrase, because when I was working in New York, in fact, it wasn't on Jessica Jones. It was on the Deuce. I was doing the Deuce for HBO, and it was at a time when I booked that I was really starting to get homesick. Yeah, the city was just taking its toll, as New York can.
I've heard it's quite rough.
Yeah, it's a rough city, and it was starting to take its toll. And I had this experience where, like, I got onto set. First of all, I got onto set and I'm working with like big stars, right? I'm being directed by a big star. I'm acting with a big star, and it's the nerves are going. And I get onto set, and the director of photography is this guy Vanya Serval, who he was a DOP on Game of Thrones, and he DOP'd that. But we had done a commercial in Cape Town together.
Oh, crazy.
Right? And so I got onto set and I was like, Vanya! And he's like, Colin! I'm like, holy crap, what the hell? So that was amazing. But then I had this epiphany on set that it really feels like coming home. That the crews are exactly the same. They just have different accents. Okay. The wardrobe people are the same kind of people. The makeup department are the same kind of people.
I know exactly what you mean there.
The grips are the same kind of people.
Catering's the same.
Catering is the same. I mean, you look at like the grips department, and they're wearing shorts in midwinter, and they're covered in tats.
Literally
they're from Long Island,
probably wearing a metal band shirt.
Yeah, exactly, dude. They got long hair. Like, you're like, that's a grip. That could be a grip in South Africa. They're like, it's the same people. And I'm like, it's my people. It's my people. And it was such a lovely experience being on that set, because I felt this familiarity of being home, and I don't know. That set is my happy place, man. And it was in that moment that I realized that a film set is my happy place. I'm never happier than when I'm on set or sitting in my trailer or watching a fellow actor perform from behind the monitor. It's the best place to be.
I mean, I can see that from just the fact that like you have just kept working and you didn't rest on, the fame that you had here. Because would you say like you're kind of less known now, like to the South African public than 100%. You were?
Yeah.
And how is that? Because I feel like that must be kind of freeing.
Yeah, it's welcome. Because also, when I was very well known here, I didn't really have control over that, because it was very much the marketing departments of whatever network I was working for.
Yeah.
I mean, Mnet, for instance, when working on Idols, and they push you and promote you, and you don't really have control over that or how they do that.
Yeah.
And
they've also got their ideas of what works, and you've got your ideas of how you want to be presented. Exactly. And they conflict.
Exactly. Yeah. And then also at that time was when I was well known was also when Heat Magazine was big. God. Remember that whole era?
Yeah, which must have been weird for people like you who were celebrities in South Africa. But it's like being a celebrity in South Africa has never really been that.
Yeah. But it was.
And then it was that for a while.
And then it kind of went away.
Yeah.
Which is strange, but I'm also kind of happy about it.
Definitely. You don't have paparazzi like following you to the coffee shop. And
yeah. And I had that for a bit.
Yeah.
And it was weird. It was a bizarre existence, and quite an oppressive existence. I feel for international celebrities who can't go out without having,
like they literally
people take photos. You can't have a real life, man. Which is why they go to expensive, exclusive resorts that nobody else can afford to go to. It's so that they can just chill.
Yeah. But it's still like they're never going to meet someone at a bar that doesn't know who they are. Like that's the thing. It's like your interactions in society are always going to be tainted by your fame.
Always.
You feel like you might have escaped that a little bit?
I think so. Yeah. And I'm totally okay with that. Like, long may that last. Provided I can continue working. And there's always this balancing act, right?
That's the same thing with comedy.
Right. You want to work. And so you have to do a certain amount of publicity. You have to get your name out there to a degree.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't want to do it to the degree that you no longer have a life.
And that everyone knows everything about your personal life.
Exactly. You want to be able to do enough promotion so that you can work. The nice thing about acting, though, I find, is for the most part, it's not really about how well known you are, and every job comes down to your audition. You have to audition for the role. Sure, I might get in the room and be seen, but it's not because of my public persona so much as the work that I've done.
Yeah. And the people know you like, okay, this is a dependable like actor. This is someone who's done the job many times before. Exactly. Let's see what he can do on this project.
Exactly. But then it still just comes down to what you deliver in the audition. And I kind of like that. I like being judged on what I do, not who I am.
Although I do want to ask, have you had any terrible auditions?
Oh, geez. How long is your podcast? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
That's the thing.
I've had so many.
I've never gone into acting despite like wanting to, for that very reason, that I like the first rejection in an audition. I'm just like, cool, I'm done. Thank you. Bye. Like, I don't need to do this. I already do this in stand-up comedy. I get rejected by people. And I'm at a point now with comedy where that rejection doesn't happen that much.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, it's awesome to be able to mostly, like, you always know, like, hey, this could be the nights where you suck.
It could. No, but I mean, I remember you hone your craft to the point where you're going to get away with it, even if you're faced with an audience who is not a difficult audience. You've got your fail safes. It's that kind of audience. Okay, cool. I'm going to do the golden oldies that I know.
Literally.
Yeah.
And then if that doesn't work, then it's even worse. But
yeah. I've had some terrible auditions. I mean, I remember I had one in actually 2 in a row in New York with the same guy. I remember my agent called me and was like, okay, I've got you an audition with this guy. I'm not going to say his name, obviously, but he does like 6 shows. So you want to like don't fuck up.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. I wish he had never said that to me, because then that immediately
puts the pressure on. Yeah.
The pressure was on. And here's the thing, something I realized in that place is that the smaller the role, the bigger the line out the door.
Fair enough.
Okay. So if you're going for like a series recurring or a top of show, you'll have an appointment and you'll go in at, when there were appointments. Now there aren't appointments anymore. But if you've got like one line and you're like the cop on the beat that goes, he's over there, ma'am, then there's going to be a line out the door, right?
Because it's just like 100 people for this half an hour.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. And so I arrive at the audition at the studio. Well, it's not even a studio, okay? It's the guy's office. And you arrive and there is like literally the waiting room is full, and right down the corridor, people are sitting on the corridor. And it's one of these places where they insist that you bring your headshot and your CV printed on the back of your headshot, and it has to be the right size, because if it's the wrong size, forget about it.
Like
you're not going in.
Whatever.
Right? It's got to be an 8x10.
8x10, yeah.
8x10, and your CV's got to be printed on the back. I was kept waiting for an hour and a half, and I'm drinking coffee, getting like
the jitters, yeah.
Getting the jitters, and then someone comes out and goes, headshots, giving me a headshot. Once you're in the waiting room, and then you wait another 10 minutes, and then they come out and go, Colin, and you go in, and then you walk in, and there's not a studio. There isn't even a camera. There's just this guy, like behind a power desk, looking
just
at
the
you.
one guy.
Yeah, looking at you over his specs. And then there's a reader sitting at the corner, and he's like, "Okay, hey, Colin, yeah, this is your reader. His name is Jeff, and go." And you've just got to act the scene. And I tried. I had like 2 lines, and it came up to my cue, and I was like, completely dried, like didn't know what I was saying. And he was like, okay, great, we'll call you. Thanks.
They even said the we'll call you.
Yeah. And that was it.
And did you think at that moment you'd ruined your career?
Yeah. Well, I did with him.
With him, yeah.
Because he didn't see me for like a month or two. Then he saw me again and I tried again.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Was it just
twice.
That situation?
It was just, I just lost it. I let the nerves get the better of me.
That is so crazy. Like I would never expect that to happen to you. Cause like you, like to me, come across as a super chill dude, you know, like you have, that's also the thing though. It's, I mean, perception versus reality. Like, you know, obviously you go through the same shit as everyone.
Definitely. And especially, you know, in a new city and you're performing in an accent.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. What's that like?
Yeah. So, like, when I first got there, I thought I had a good American accent, but I didn't. And, you know, now I can slip into it because I lived there. I would spend days just going out in an accent, just having conversations with people. And although when you can have conversations, because trying to spark up conversations with randos
in New York
doesn't happen. You know, I became very good at ordering coffee in an American accent. Like, so I used to say, if ever I got a role like ordering a Black Americano, I'd be like, I'd book that shit. You know, can I get a Black Americano to go? See, like, boom, I got it.
So that was your process for this.
So it's funny. So then what I actually started doing to get my accent down is there's this volunteering organization called New York Cares.
Okay.
And you can go online and you choose the area that you're in, like what area you want to work in. You can teach English to immigrants. You can read books in nursing homes. You can pack shelves in a soup kitchen. You can serve soup at a soup kitchen. You know, a whole bunch of different. You can do outdoor stuff in parks. You can do educational stuff with kids, and you sign up. I even did compiling CVs for ex-cons.
Crazy, cool,
crazy stuff. And I did it because I mean I always like to volunteer. It makes me feel good. I believe in Dharma. I think that the energy that you get from the world is what you put in the world. So I always do try and do something. But the ulterior motive was being able to like go and do these things in an American accent, because then I actually am talking. And it was amazing because especially the reading to old folks, you know, we'd go and read books, and I would spend, you know, an hour or two a week just reading a book to old folks in a nursing home. And it was fantastic. It was brilliant. And my accent got down in no time flat. So that's how I did that.
That's fucking sick though. Like that's actually really cool. Cause like, yeah, it's a two birds, one stone kind of thing.
Yeah,
doing
exactly.
A good thing plus, hey, did anyone clock you for it?
How do you mean?
Like, did anyone say like, where are you from? You know?
Well, so that was how I knew that my accent was getting better, is when people stopped saying, where are you from? But interestingly, when Americans say, where are you from? I realized they don't actually immediately think that you're foreign. They just think that you're from some weird state.
Fair enough. Because it's so big.
It's so big, and the accents are varied and quite weird, you know? So yeah, but when they stopped saying that, when they stopped saying, where are you from? Then I knew that my accent was getting down. But dude, I get nerves, man. I do get nerves. And particularly when I was there, I would get nerves, especially if I was seeing a new casting director that I'd never seen before, or when you go to network and then you're doing an audition in the room, in a boardroom with like all of the suits, you know, the producers and the executive producers and the network.
And any one of them could just be like, nah, I don't like him.
Yeah.
So I get the nerves there. Like,
yeah, that got me. I mean, I had one of those as well.
And then is that shit worth? It's obviously worth it in the long run, right? Like to go through all this nonsense just to like eventually be able to do the thing you want to do, or is it?
Still deciding. Still deciding. Look, the last couple of years have been brutal, man, for all of us.
Yeah.
You know, COVID, and then
the strikes and everything have changed a lot.
Extracted strike. That strike took, you know, 5 months longer than it should have.
Sure.
I mean, that was 8 months that we just did not work, you know?
And it's also like, it seems like the studios are being a little bit vindictive afterwards.
I don't think it's that. No, I don't think they're being vindictive. I think that the strikes took such a knock out of their bottom line. and that the streamers are all were already in a holding pattern, waiting to see who was going to take market share, who's going to sell to who. The streamers are all just pouring money in, and I'm not sure how many of them, to be honest, are even profitable.
Yeah.
They're just pouring money in, waiting to see how this whole industry pans out, how this new way of doing things pans out. And I don't think that's clear yet.
Yeah.
And so money has become an issue for the studios. And I don't know when that gets resolved or how it gets resolved.
Yeah, I think Matt Damon brought it up. It's the mid-level movie is basically just no longer exists in movie houses.
Correct. Because there aren't DVD sales anymore.
Exactly.
He brings up that point that you used to have when releasing a film, you would have two sources of income. You would have your theatrical release and then your DVD release, and you could at least make a profit. Even if you didn't make a profit on the theatrical release, you could make a profit on the DVD release.
Literally.
Now we don't have that anymore. It just goes out on the streamers, and then it's not making. You've got one sale. And that's the sale to the streamer.
And the thing is, I guess it's also, you can license it for a year to Netflix and then to the next one, but then it's a lot of diminishing returns because
exactly.
Yeah, it's going to get lower and lower each time.
Yeah, exactly.
So fun times to be an actor.
And then also, you mentioned Matt Damon.
Yeah.
We've also seen all of the A-list stars move into television.
Yeah.
Now, so they're now taking the series regulars, that us mid-level actors were gunning for. Fair. And now you're up against an A-lister, So there's that as well. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, I am just thankful to be working.
Yeah. Have you thought about doing plays? Are you at all in that sort of realm?
I love doing theater, and I think as we move into this world of AI, I think theater is going to, live performance generally is going to become more and more important to people, because it's part of the human condition to watch real performances.
Yeah.
The problem with theater, especially in this country, is it's difficult to pay your bond.
Yeah, but I was thinking more in New York.
Unless you're Alan Committee.
Yeah, I've heard Alan Committee is doing quite well. This is the second time his name's come out today, and
Alan just doesn't stop, and power to him.
Yeah, I had no idea he was balling the way he's balling, but good for him.
No, he's balling. No. He doesn't stop. He goes from a one-man show into a theater piece that he's producing into another one-man show. It's fantastic, and I only have wonderful things to say about him because he's the most lovely human being.
Yeah, I'm yet to meet him, but I definitely will.
He's a good man.
But I was talking more about in New York for the theater acting. Is that even a possibility there, or is it just such a closed off sphere?
Yeah, it's very, very difficult. The auditions are few and far between. The money thing's also a problem. I got offered an audition for an off-Broadway piece, and it wouldn't cover my rent. It would not cover my rent.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I would have had to I don't know what I would have done. It was just not an option. You can make some decent money on Broadway, but those...
And getting on Broadway is now you've got A-list actors from the movie.
Yeah. And I had an audition recently for an understudy. So I suppose that's how you break in, is to get an understudy. But few and far between, and very, very stiff competition.
Yeah, so the juice probably not worth the squeeze there as much as you enjoy the work.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I would love to. Jeez, who wouldn't want to be on Broadway?
Literally, as an actor, I'm sure it's a lifelong dream.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, we're going to head to the last question. It's a question I ask absolutely every guest.
Okay, shoot.
What is a big mistake you've learned an important lesson from?
A big mistake that I've learned an important lesson from. Okay. Will you give me 5 minutes of silence that you can edit out?
That's how this goes every single time. No one's ever just oh yeah, the time I burnt my house down, immediately, no one's ever like that. It's always
Huh.
Not starting a podcast after being the Fear Factor host could have changed the world, man. Worked out well for the other guy.
I think probably not trusting my gut.
Okay, when did that happen?
A few times. When there's that little voice. And yeah, I think as well, if I could redo my career, I would probably, this is a double-edged sword. I would probably try and make sure I had a dependable income outside of the industry.
Fair.
It's too late now. You know, I'm nearly 50 and have like no skills or I mean, I've got skills.
You're pot committed.
Yeah, but I don't have any experience in any other field. And so even if I wanted to get a job outside of the industry now, I couldn't. So I'm kind of pot committed, which in some ways is a good thing because you're like, well, I better make this work.
Yeah.
So it is motivating.
But stressful.
And to bring it back to the trusting my gut, is there have been occasions when I knew I shouldn't have done a job, but I had to pay the bills. And I think that, had I been in a financial position to have that freedom to say no, I think the freedom to say no is an incredibly powerful position.
Yeah.
And I probably would have made fewer mistakes in terms of my career.
Okay, we won't get into the specifics of those mistakes. I think people can
but
figure it out for themselves.
I think you can figure it out for yourself.
I know exactly which movie you're talking about. Yeah, because that one kind of tainted you for a while, I think.
Oh yeah.
And then, did you have to leave to get rid of that stink, basically? Is that what happened?
No. That wasn't it. And interestingly, the stink wasn't so bad within the industry.
Is it? I know it was badly panned, with reviews and stuff like that. And some audiences probably liked it to a degree. I mean,
yeah, but at the end of the day, a casting director is still looking at it and going, "All right, well,
what did you do?
You shouldered a lead,
yeah,
in a film that bombed, but you shouldered a lead. Like, okay, I'll see you for the next job.
So it's not the end of the world that you did.
Not the end of the world, no, but not by any means.
But still, if that wasn't on your filmography, you'd be pretty happy with yourself.
Yeah. Although, I say that, but at the end of the day, the experience of shooting it was a good one.
Yeah.
I
mean, that's also it. Like, you living your life. You're just going through it. You're just going, hey, I'm going to show up to work and act in this thing. You've no control over the direction, the editing, the marketing, none of it. You don't. Yeah.
This is it. It's actually sad a lot of the time. And even I do it when I watch stuff, is I've seen great actors in terrible performances.
Yeah.
And terrible projects. And it's actually unfair a lot of the time on them, because if you see a great actor in a bad performance, it's not them.
Probably not them, yeah.
It's not them.
I mean, unless it's Nick Cage in his phase where he needed money, but...
Okay, maybe sometimes it's them, but for the most part, it's trying to deliver a bad script or being given bad direction or whatever the case is. Because if you've seen that actor in other roles where they knock it out the park, you're like, oh, hang on, that's the same actor. So they're capable of that. So what was that? And yeah, look, sure, actors can be in a bad place and can be desperate.
Yeah.
Again, not allowing yourself to be in a position of desperation is, I think, beneficial to every actor. And that's a piece of advice.
Major debt.
Yeah.
Nick Cage.
Yeah. And that's advice I give younger actors now is have something that allows you to say no. The ability to say no is very, very powerful.
Sweet. That's a great place to end it.
Cool.
Thank you so much, bro.
Yeah. Pleasure, man.